nation is rife on the much awaited visit of the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman to Delhi. It is now absolutely clear what is holding up the visit that New Delhi has been intending to get through for the past several months. While there has been much discussion about whether or not Bangladesh had imposed conditions on India to enable the visit of the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman to New Delhi, it is now absolutely clear what is holding up the visit. And it is a statement by the press secretary of the Bangladeshi Prime Minister, Saleh Shibli himself, who has come out and acknowledged that it was none other than the Bangladeshi Prime Minister, Tariq Rahman himself, who had raised two major issues before the Indian High Commissioner to Dhaka, Dinesh Trivedi, when the two had met on August 10 in Dhaka. Now, stating that Bangladesh had not said that the Prime Minister would not go, Shibli had said that the Prime Minister had pointed out that Dhaka's request to New Delhi for the extradition of Sheikh Hasina, former Bangladeshi Prime Minister to Dhaka, has been pending with New Delhi, and that Tariq Rahman had sought to know the status of that request from the Indian High Commissioner to Dhaka. Shibli further added that the Prime Minister of Bangladesh had also raised the issue of the accused who was arrested in India in connection with the death of student leader Osman Hadi, and that the Bangladeshi Prime Minister had also sought to know when he will be handed over to Dhaka. Now, this gives a major clarity towards what's really going on between India and Bangladesh, and also underlines that the possibility of a visit by the Bangladeshi Prime Minister to India as of August 18 quite low. And why? Because Bangladesh has now vocally outlined what exactly it wants from India to enable a visit by the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman to India. And this it has done in language that has been quite crystal clear. In fact, on Sunday, the Bangladeshi Foreign Ministry spokesperson told media persons in Dhaka that while India had extended invitation to the Bangladeshi Prime Minister to visit to New Delhi, India needs to create a propitious environment to enable the visit, and also added that the press interaction held by the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina at the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia on August 5 had vitiated the process. Furthermore, the comments by the press secretary of the Bangladeshi Prime Minister have only added weightage to the fact that Bangladesh needs these two demands to be fulfilled before Tariq Rahman arrives in India. However, India, that has been so far patiently watching the moves of Bangladesh and which way the wind flows in Dhaka, the country has now added the element of reciprocity in its stand towards Bangladesh. And reacting to a question on the statement by the Bangladeshi Foreign Ministry, India on Tuesday has said that the country wants to have a positive, constructive and forward-looking relationship with Bangladesh based on mutuality of interest and reciprocity. In fact, answering a specific question in connection with the Bangladeshi Foreign Ministry's statement, spokesperson for the Ministry of External Affairs of India, Randhir Jaiswal, said that India's stand on the press interaction by the former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina need not be repeated, and added that the requests made by Bangladesh for the extradition are being examined as per established procedures. But it is Jaiswal's comment about mutuality of interest and reciprocity that needs to be underlined here. While till now, the Ministry of External Affairs of India would limit itself merely to the fact that India had invited two invitations to the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman to visit New Delhi, including one for having a bilateral meeting with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which was extended as early as February 2026. India had also extended an invitation to the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman to visit New Delhi for participation in the outreach session of the BRICS summit that is scheduled to be held in India in September. However, India has slightly emboldened its stand as of August 18, adding the elements of mutuality of interest and reciprocity in its stand towards Bangladesh. Now, sources tell this in India Abroad correspondent that while India had been patiently waiting and watching every move of the Bangladeshi Prime Minister, it is ready to underline now that Delhi also wants reciprocity from Dhaka. Sources underline that the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman, soon after he was chosen as the leader of the Bangladeshi people after an election that was held in the South Asian neighbor of India, Sons the Awami League, the Bangladeshi Prime Minister is yet to honor that invitation. In fact, sources further point out that rather than visiting India, which has been the preferred destination of several Bangladeshi Prime Ministers as their first foreign destination after assuming power in Dhaka, the Bangladeshi Prime Minister chose Malaysia as the first foreign destination of his travel after assuming power in Dhaka, which was followed up by a significant visit to China. And in fact, during that visit, the two countries took several key decisions on going ahead with projects that could have initially seen Dhaka collaborate with Delhi. But instead, projects like the Teesta River Development Plan and the Mongla Port have gone to China. And Beijing has got strategic opening right in the backyard of India. Now, while this is a major matter of concern for India, India had been patiently waiting and watching every move of Dhaka and had been cooperating with Dhaka while continuing its supply of power and fuel to the neighboring country. It is important to be noted that India supplies as much of 1100 megawatt of power and 180,000 tons of diesel via the India-Bangladesh Friendship Pipeline to help Bangladesh stabilize its power and energy needs. And India had supplied thousands of tons of diesel to Bangladesh via the pipeline during the West Asia crisis as well. It is also important to be noted that Bangladesh is suffering one of its worst fuel energy crises over several years. And in fact, even as other countries have moved on, Bangladesh is forced to undertake austerity measures like closure of certain activities after 8 p.m. due to the shortage of fuel. In fact, Bangladesh had recently also made a request for 9.4 million liters of diesel from India, a request that New Delhi has been studying. Now, when asked about this specific request from Bangladesh, the Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said that while energy cooperation with Bangladesh continues, India is examining the request based on its own domestic requirements, refining capacity, as also the availability of fuel on its own side. However, Jaiswal further underlined that India intends to have a positive, constructive and forward-looking relationship with Bangladesh based on mutuality of interest and reciprocity. So yet again, mutuality of interest and reciprocity has made in India's official stand towards Bangladesh, even as the country highlighted that energy cooperation with the South Asian neighbor continues. Sources in New Delhi say that while there has been display of a lot of patience from New Delhi, India feels that it is high time that Bangladesh also responds positively towards India's outreach to Bangladesh. The Indian High Commission in Dhaka is still continuing to make efforts to ensure that Dhaka is on board for enabling a visit by the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman. In fact, the Indian High Commissioner to Dhaka, Dinesh Trivedi, has sought a meeting with the Bangladeshi Prime Minister's Defense Advisor AKM Shamsul Islam as well. And sources say that Trivedi has been making all efforts to ensure that the bilateral meeting takes place. However, with India underlining its stand on the extradition request of Bangladesh, the ball is now in Bangladesh's court. And in fact, Bangladesh too has admitted that discussions will take place after India clarifies its stance on the extradition requests. Bangladeshi Prime Minister's press secretary has underlined that while Bangladesh had not said that the Prime Minister would not be visiting India at all, they were waiting clarity on New Delhi's stand towards the two requests from Bangladesh. Now, with India clarifying that there was nothing new about its stand towards the extradition of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to Dhaka, it is now clear that it is the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman that now needs to decide whether or not he wants to go ahead with a visit to New Delhi or not. Sources, however, say that as of August 18, it looks like the visit might be unlikely, at least this month. Now, whether or not the Bangladeshi Prime Minister chooses to participate in the BRICS summit, that is something only time will tell. We'll keep tracking all significant developments arising out of South Asia for our viewers here. Reporting from New Delhi, this is Shikha Salaria for India Abroad.